Henry Tyler says, I'm hot, so I must be hot. Happy New Year again to everybody out there in TV land. And today is our first edition of Table Talk with Brenda Perryman for 2014. And I'd like to introduce my co-hosts.
I'm Robert Thomas, member of the Detroit Board of Zoning Appeals.
Chris Summerall, proud servant of the citizens of the city of Detroit.
Councilman Rodney Patrick from the city of Highland Park.
Okay, good afternoon, gentlemen. How's the weather treating you?
I got stuck today and I had to dig myself out.
Really?
Yeah.
That takes a lot of humility. Guys normally don't like to admit that they were stuck, but
You know,
I'm okay. I dug myself out. I can see if I had some help.
you're a different kind of man. You're a different kind of man. You're a different kind of man. Well, we're going to start off with on this day in African American life in the city of Detroit. And on this day in 1894, James H. Cole Sr. was born in Michigan. In 1919, he will found the James H. Cole Home for Funerals on St. Aubin Street in the city's Black Bottoms area. It will come to be considered the oldest African American owned and operated institution of its kind in Michigan. Cole's pioneering efforts helped to pave the way for the House of Diggs, Barksdale, Murdoch, McFall, Stinson, Thompson, Trinity Chapel, Pye, Cantrell, Jeter, Ellis, Chenault, and Swanson, all African American owned institutions. James H. Cole Sr. will join the ancestors in November of 1970. And of course, this was compiled by Mr. Ken Coleman. Also, on the sports arena, Isaiah Thomas in 1994 was added to the roster of the Dream Team 2, replacing injured Tim Hardaway. But he sustains an injury of his own and will not play, but the team will go on to win a gold medal, World Championship of Basketball in Ontario, Canada. So those were very, very interesting events, I think. A lot of people cheered for Isaiah Thomas.
I think that a lot of us were upset that he wasn't on that Dream Team 1.
Right.
Yeah.
We remember that, I think it was the rumored Jordan,
That
Feud.
Michael
Jordan
didn't
Yeah.
kept him off the team.
Right.
Dream Team 1, arguably the greatest point guard to ever, greatest little point guard to ever play the game, and he didn't make that Dream Team 1. So.
Isaiah, from what I hear, was kind of mean. But anyway, we're going to go on. We have a lot of interesting stuff for you today, and we're going to go through our national event. Our national event isn't a typical national event. We have one. It's about an Oklahoma man, 33. He killed his father with an atomic wedgie. I found this very interesting because I did not know that you could die with an atomic wedgie, by an atomic wedgie. Robert, did you read this?
Yeah, I read this, and it looks like they got into a little altercation prior to this, and they didn't display
Yeah, they did
the
explain
age of
the stepfather.
the stepfather, but I assumed that maybe he had a heart attack, and it wasn't due to the total wedgie, unless he choked him out with his own pair of underwear at
He
the same
said
time.
after a fight, by yanking the underwear up the stepfather's back and over his head so that the waistband was around his neck,
Yeah.
and it choked him to death.
Yeah.
It was a very, awkward story to read.
I guess for you guys it was.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? And I'll be the first to say, when I was younger, I've given some wedgies and I've received some. But this this is the most extreme case. But I think that there was obviously some stuff that led up to this, and the atomic wedgie was it just was the final blow.
Wow, I could have killed a lot of people at night when they were sleeping. I get that.
And that's not a good way to die, I'll tell you that.
No. But we're going to concentrate. We have a lot of great stories for you today. And we're going to concentrate on Metro Detroit. And then we're going to get into some entertainment. And a lot of the entertainment is kind of controversial. And people have been talking about it a lot on Facebook. And we wanted to talk about it here. And since I had the men today, I think that these are very interesting topics. But let's go on to Mr. Duggan. How did you like his opening speech the other day?
Well, I got to say, Ms. Perryman, I liked it. I think anytime you have a mayor that comes in through the door and has a plan, I appreciate and respect that kind of integrity that he's going to try to bring. There's some low-hanging fruit in Detroit that most certainly he could take care of, that should have been taken care of long ago, that he can
Like
handle.
what? Like what?
Wow. We have some beautification issues in Detroit that can easily be taken care of. There's some smaller issues dealing with streets and potholes. The Act 51 monies are available for him to go ahead and really get those streets paved in the spring. And so within the first 90 days, or in his case, the first 100 days or the first 6 months, he's asking folks to hang on.
Yeah.
I agree with that. There's some things that he can get done relatively quickly to show how serious he is.
You know something? I'll tell you what. I'm a little bit optimistic about it. He asked the citizens of Detroit to give him 6 months to do this, to repair streets, street lights.
Get the buses running.
Get the rapid bus system running where it should be appropriately. He fired the contracting
DDOT?
DDOT director, and I mean it seems like he, day one of was that last week?
Yeah.
This week? No, last week. Matter of
Last
fact,
week,
he got on the ground and started running.
Right.
So
And I think it's a good thing that he put the clock on himself.
yeah.
And
Right.
so he assumed responsibility of leadership in the city, and really, it's something that for a while we've been looking for someone to take responsibility instead of passing the buck. And so I'm interested to see what the next 6 months, because people are watching.
Yeah.
He's got supporters, but he also has detractors, and so I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for the city of Detroit. These are improvements that we all want to see. So we'll
And
see.
some of these improvements really can be done kind of quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, but they make a really, really big difference, even from just an aesthetic viewpoint. Detroiters want to see change. We want to feel it too, but we want to see different things. And simple things as throwing a switch for a light to come on will make the difference in many, many people's, communities.
Or getting your city employees to kind of work on a blizzard.
Yeah.
When you have your neighboring suburbs, they have 60+% of their buses on, running, and we have, close to 40. I think it's a little crazy there. And I think that even the DDOT director
it
said
is insufficient, and it's been put up with. I think that people have put up with it.
Yeah.
I agree. It is refreshing to see that he's putting himself out there to say you're going to get something for your votes. Too many times we've constantly gone to the polls and we vote for the same person over and over again, and we're not receiving anything on the back end for that vote, and that has to stop.
How many mayors has Detroit had in the past 5 years?
it depends on how you equate what you equate mayor to, because
I think
Well,
five.
definitely,
Ken Cockrell was kind of mayor
Yeah,
for
he
a
was.
minute.
I think 5.
yeah, probably about I think 4.
Well, we
Including
have Duggan.
emergency manager or
Right, we have Duggan.
Oh, that'd be
we have
five, right?
we have Bing.
Yeah.
We have Cockrell, and we have Kilpatrick. So yeah, that was 4.
yeah.
Oh, okay. It just seemed like it was
crazy.
more than that. I don't know. It just seemed.
Well, that's quite a bit.
Yes,
It is.
That's impressive.
That's our number is getting pretty high.
And it waters down the term of mayor, of the leader of the city. I mean, how many people can actually,
The connotation.
Yeah.
What does it mean? And it lowers the bar too sometimes. And a lot of people are not for Duggan doing a good job. And it seems, I read a lot of Facebook posts, and even though he came in and I thought he said a lot of
Yes.
good things. And I like the fact that, didn't he ride around with either the snow plows or he rode around with something, and just to see how it worked and stuff. And I thought that it was energetic.
I feel that those folks just say that they wish him, they don't want him to do well while in office. I don't see how something like that from a Detroiter, I mean, how can that come out of your mouth?
It's just
If he falls, then so does Detroit. That's ridiculous.
it's just being a sore loser,
Yeah.
and you've got people who have their own personal agenda, and they put that ahead of the citizens of the city of Detroit. And so the hope is that over time people will push back, or they'll level off with their personal feelings, whether it be because of his race or because of his views on certain things. Hopefully to level off if there is the change that so many of us want to see regarding the city of Detroit. So.
Yeah,
Right,
for 6
well,
months.
you want him to be successful, so the city could be successful. And that's with anything, even here in Highland Park, right?
Absolutely. If you would rather see the city crumble than to have the mayor, maybe if not of your choosing, be successful, well, shame on you.
They don't
Absolutely.
want. Yeah,
I want DeAndre to be successful. I want,
Absolutely.
you know, the DeAndre and the city council people to be successful. I have Tom on. Tom is on the line. Good afternoon and Happy New Year, Tom.
Yeah, good. Happy New Year and Happy New Year to your panel right there.
How's it
You know
going,
what,
Tom?
I agree
Hey, Tom.
with what you're saying in terms of it's kind of like if the mayor doesn't succeed, the city fails. And this is, you know, in terms of the dire shape that the city's in, that is on the government side, okay, we cannot afford to have that fail, all right? But this city is a quote-unquote Charles Dickens, a perfect tale of two cities. Have you heard any of the people in the business community saying that they're not making any money?
No.
Yeah.
Making
Just the opposite.
money. But then that's the best of times. Now we go to the worst of times, to Woodward Avenue, the Coleman A. Young Municipal Center, and that financial quagmire that the city finds itself in. And you know what? I didn't vote for Mike Duggan. Benny was my candidate of choice. But the bottom line is, Mike Duggan is mayor. And I would be so glad when some of these idiot people stop acting like children, and I'm insulting children when I say this, that, you know, they still want to call the man Dugan instead of his real name, which is Duggan. I'll be glad when they get past that. And but, you know, otherwise, you know, I wish Duggan nothing but the best. And I mean, I realize that in terms of pecking order, Mayor Duggan is at the low end of the totem pole because you got Governor Snyder, you got Judge Rhodes, you got Judge Rosen, then you got Kevin Orr in terms of, you know, what's going on with this thing in terms of the bankruptcy. But, you know, Mike is not going to be able to really do anything, you know, get the full responsibilities of mayor until there is a significant improvement in
Well,
the city's fiscal health.
Yeah, I
Until
agree.
that
But
happens,
where I
believe
have
we're
the
going to have an emergency manager for a little while longer, even after Kevin Orr leaves.
Well, Tom, gave him his responsibilities. Mr. Orr gave him the responsibilities, and I was just very upset that one of them did not include the police department. I really am very. Well,
but, you know,
we're going to get into police.
Anything that Duggan wants to do, he's got to eventually go to Mr. Orr and say, well,
Right.
yay or nay about it.
And
But,
part
you know, but that aside, that's just the way it is right now, and it is what it is.
Part of that problem was a deal made between Chief Craig and Emergency Manager Orr was that, you know, if I'm coming in here, I'm going to be working for you for a while versus, you know, this new mayor coming in. He made a deal that way, and he said, hey, I'm gonna, you know, stick to this deal that I made with
I just
Chief
don't
Craig.
think he's doing the so-called excellent job that people think he's doing. But we,
Chief Craig?
But you
right?
know,
I like that. I like Chief
They
Craig.
You
not
like
make-
smoke and
I mean,
mirrors,
you know, we've
then.
got to give we've got to give him time. We've got to
Well,
give
I
Duggan
agree with
time
that,
to,
Tom,
you know, bring up a
Tom,
report card and,
Tom,
you know,
Tom,
say, okay,
Tom.
A, B, C, or D.
Tom,
Yes, ma'am.
I see more smoke and mirrors than I see things, crimes being solved. Another thing is that down at these places where they have been doing these raids and stuff, they set up the little mini police station there for a while. They're getting a lot of these guys on, not on the drug thing, they're getting a lot of them on child support, absconder, and all of this stuff. I want to see more crime solved. I want to see and he says they're going to be at least 150 more new officers coming up. But I just,
Give him a chance, though.
he's
Brenda.
been here for months.
But in his defense, Brenda, you know, if I'm living next door to a drug house and they're able to bust this drug house and get rid of these guys because of child support versus drug possession, it doesn't matter to me. Just get them going.
They let them go. They let a lot of
Eventually-
those guys go.
But-
Which is
But
cool.
it's
But
a
he's
start.
setting
It's
a
more than what it was
precedent right
before.
now that we're not going to handle it. You're not going to do crimes in these neighborhoods the way you have, and you know, have been doing it in the past. They're not going to do that anymore. And he's trying to put a stop to it. At least slow it down a whole lot
Well, yeah,
more than
And
it
a
was
lot of
before.
it
one
is-
place that they raided over on Jefferson. I mean, that place had 600 complaints
Absolutely.
come in there. And I mean, you know, all this while it's been ignored until, and I'm not saying just because Chief Craig came into town, but he went after him. Okay, he wanted
Yeah.
to bust the thing. Same
All
thing
right.
like over there with the.
Jury's still out.
Yeah, well, no, I understand, but
I'll-
I mean, you know, right now, if I give the chief a grade, I'd have to give him maybe a B minus, because I mean, you know, there's always room for improvement.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Okay,
gosh.
Brenda, thanks for taking the call.
That room
sweetheart.
is about the size of Illinois.
Appreciate it, Tom.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Tom, and Happy New Year. In fact, we're going to the Detroit Police Department. That's our next story. And they're outlining changes to bolster emergency response and crime fighting. Well, I just hope so, but I think that, what did you all think about Chief Craig saying that we should arm ourselves? You know,
Wow.
You know, that's something that I disagree with. I think that, you know, it takes the onus off of the police department. And frankly, you're imposing on people's, you know, their free will. You know, that's a personal opinion. And I don't, you know, carry a gun, and I don't think that anyone should tell me to be safe I need to carry one, especially my police chief.
Well, you know, I have a little different take on it. You know, I don't think any police chief typically go out there and tell somebody they need to be armed. But I think after when he was robbed himself, you know, I think he had a whole nother perspective on, you know, living in Detroit. Maybe you should, you know, maybe it's not too bad to carry a firearm now.
Well, let me say this. It's a tough call, because as a council person, what I did, what I worked out one time, a number of residents came to me and wanted to have a CCW class. They wanted me to go out and get an instructor to come in, and we have a class in Highland Park. And I went back and forth on that. I went and talked to my dad, and we talked about it. He said, well, look, you don't want to be known as the councilman that armed the community, but you want to frame it as a home protection and that kind of thing. And so I did it, and out of about 10, 15 residents that said they would show up on the day of, 35 residents showed up. And so we did another one, and about 30 showed up again. So it is necessary. People need to do what they need to do, but most certainly you still want to stay in tune with the police and make sure the police are involved.
But from a national perspective, Detroit has a reputation already as just a violent capital. And so now what really you're promoting is that the citizens who are essentially nonviolent go and, you know, have this
Protect
appearance, well, protect themselves,
Right.
but again, it's another black eye, in my opinion, nationally, and it doesn't really solve the issue. His job is to solve crime, not to endorse someone to go and get a Smith & Wesson. If we want someone to go and sell us a gun or sell us on having a gun, we'll go and talk to that person. But you were brought here to improve the police department. Don't distract us by telling us to go and do something outside of watching you and making sure you do your job.
I agree with you on that, but I don't think he made any endorsements on any particular type of firearm. He's trying to get people to help protect themselves from imminent harm or danger, period. People, you know, they're getting robbed. People are dying for no reason at all.
Right. And I don't see
and it's
anything
those
wrong with it.
instances, and he's like, hey, you know, maybe, you know, you should carry something on you.
Right. And I don't see anything wrong with that, because we know for sure if we go up north to the northern parts of the state
It's a
and
nonviolent.
walk into a home, we know was waiting on us. So they're protecting themselves. So we most
Yeah,
certainly want to do the same
Okay,
thing.
but here's my point. When Charles Pugh was a city councilman, I remember he'd be on the Angelo Henderson show a lot of times, and he'd say things like, you know, people would call in, my neighborhood is this or my neighborhood is that, had a complaint about activities going on the street, and the first thing he said, well, if you neighbors sit outside, you would be looking out and this and that. He put all the onus back on the neighbors. Of course the neighbors are going to look and see, but we need the backup of the police department. Then this just seemed like a kind of irresponsible, reckless, I got to think of something to say statement. I just thought it was unnecessary, because the people who are, I think that could put more fear into people.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't think
Are
that.
you saying I got to go out and get a gun now?
I don't think
You
that
know.
the people who want to have a gun need him to
Right.
tell them that they feel more comfortable or safe with the gun. You know, I think that again, you know, it does promote fear, because now you're almost telling people, hey, you need to get a gun.
Because we can't help you.
And why is that the standard why is that the standard for Detroit?
I don't know.
I don't
see
hear
it-
other police
I s-
chiefs saying.
I
saying
see
that.
something different. I see a police chief with a force now that building morale, going behind him and his leadership, and they're hitting the streets every day now. I've seen it more now than I have before. I mean, even
More than who are we talking about?
they beefed up downtown,
Warren Evans?
beefed up
More than Warren Evans?
Midtown. I've seen them in more neighborhoods
Warren
now.
Evans really had it going.
Well,
I've seen it in more neighborhoods now than ever before, and you're tackling. It seems like I think he's trying to tackle two problems at the same time. Yeah, you can arm yourself, but we're out here too.
Right.
We're out here and we're doing our job. We're vigilant at doing it. Period.
That's what he needs to talk about then. Response time, things like that.
That's what you're saying about hiring 100 and something other folks.
Well,
now.
and he is. Well, we're talking about this quote in particular, and I think that it was just unnecessary at this point in time. He hasn't proved anything yet. You haven't done anything. You've had a couple of photo ops on the news, but you really haven't shown Detroiters anything, because we've already seen countless other police chiefs coming here under great fanfare, only to see them fizzle very shortly after. So before you start going that far and telling us what we need to do, show us what you're about.
Well, let me say this: if we have an issue with him being a lover of the camera and the lover
And he
of
is
the
a
talk
lover of
show,
the camera.
I don't have necessarily a problem with that as long as he's doing his job.
Exactly.
I mean, Warren Evans. I became a Warren Evans fan when Warren Evans stated that he likes getting in the car, riding around, arresting folks. Well, that means he loves the camera, but he also loves doing his job.
He's a cop.
And so if Chief Craig wants to go to talk shows and be proactive and get out there and really promote the good things that the police department is doing, I don't have a problem with that. But still, when the cameras are off, just do your job. And I'm okay with that.
I agree. Let's go to our next story, which has been the big story of this 24-hour news cycle, and that is City Council Pro Tem George Cushenberry, who received a ticket last night.
Well, even before that, I mean, he gave that.
He told the Detroit News, or somebody
hell
in
no
his
statement.
camp, he's
Go to hell.
Go to ATL double hockey sticks.
Yeah.
And he told them to go there. He told them to go there and to do not pass go and do not collect $200.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was all because of an unfavorable opinion with the Detroit News editorial board, and I believe it was headed by Nolan Filling.
Right.
And he doesn't have strong affections towards Cushenberry or Brenda Jones, for that matter. He thinks both of them are coming from an era of obstructionists.
Right.
And he made that statement to the Detroit News to tell them to go to hell, and then he comes back. He hasn't been. This hasn't been a whole week yet. He comes back last night, and as far as what I'm hearing, I've heard some varying stories. But he was parked near a strip club, coming out, almost hit the cops. They try to pull him over. He has alcohol, open container. When they finally stop him, open container, and smell of marijuana. At least his buddy was smelling like marijuana. And
Well, it said the marijuana, it was the smell of marijuana. It
Yeah.
didn't say it was necessarily his buddy. But why? I want to know why people are defending him. That's my thing. I'm curious.
I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, he's of a stature that folks know. Even Councilman Rodney over here, Patrick. He knows. You can't do certain things. You can't be around folks who's smoking marijuana. If he's a patient or not.
Right.
Open containers. A week or so in your car. I don't care. You're
does
at
that say?
you're at a level in
better
life.
than
You cannot drive around with that type of paraphernalia in your car at all.
I think he's relying on an element in the city that is dying but not dead, and it's this race card. It's this us against them,
Yeah.
Right.
and I think that he's appealing to that. I remember reading one of the comments on Facebook that said he thinks he's Coleman Young by some of his comments, and so the thing about it is, it's those grasps at the days of old where you could just say, go to HE double hockey sticks, and people are like, yeah, you tell them. Well, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. And so I think the citizens of the city of Detroit are more savvy. as a whole, there is still that element, but they're loud and they still have influence. And unfortunately, obviously, he still has those supporters because he's where he is because of them.
Let me say this, and I have to admit something right here on Table Talk with Brenda Pearman Show. Here's the situation. About almost a month ago, I was coming down Woodward Avenue, and I was pulled over by Highland Park Police Department. I was asked for my license and registration and everything, and we had a simple conversation, a simple exchange, and I gave them that information. He said that, hey, you look familiar. I told him who I was. I gave him my card as proof. And he said, well, listen, your tag has expired. Because immediately when we pulled over, we automatically think, okay, what did I do wrong? We do a mental scan. What did I do wrong? He immediately said, hey, well, your tag has expired. I said, oh, that's right. My birthday was last month. So I need to take my half a day, I guess, to go to the Secretary of State's office to get it done. So he let me go, and I appreciate that. I'm admitting that here today because no one knew anything about that. Mm-hmm. It's not a big deal. What I want to appeal to our elected officials to stop allowing these traffic stops to become big deals. Stop blowing it out of proportion. Take your ticket, take your warning, or whatever the case may be, and then handle it behind the scenes or something like that. But stop making these traffic stops become a big deal. I didn't hop out the car. I didn't chest bump them. I didn't threaten to fire them. That kind of thing. We're making traffic stops. Police that are doing their job. We're making them have a hard enough time, and it's not necessary at all.
And I think the city of Detroit's had enough of this nonsense.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and that just makes you think you should think doubly because you sit in this position. But the city of Detroit's had enough of this nonsense, period.
Absolutely.
You've had
It's stale.
It's not necessary.
ignorance after ignorance, year after year come about, and this is the time right now to eradicate it. And I'm pretty sure the city councilmen now are sitting up there thinking, especially the new ones, man, did we really make the right choice?
Well, they had a coalition. He and Brenda Jones put a coalition together, and he got in and everything. And he is a seasoned politician. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Even that, you know, even if they had a coalition, I don't think Brenda thought that he was going to go out there and say that, hey, we formulated this plan for this to happen this way.
The first week.
Yeah, I'm like, you know, she's rethinking this. Like, okay,
How do you know?
I'm pretty sure now. I mean, all this stuff is coming out. I mean, was this the right choice?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that these are the people who are representing you. And when you're in the public eye, you have to watch the things you're doing.
Absolutely.
You cannot go into a store, if you're a television person or whatever, you can't go in the store and buy a pack of tip-top papers. You know, you know, you just can't do that. Certain things, people watch you.
Stay out the strip clubs.
Exactly.
And strip clubs. I don't know.
Exactly.
Yes, that's right.
He's a 60-something.
A strip club. Golly. I mean, gee, or at least put on the false eyeglasses.
The nose and the
mustache
mustache.
and
yeah.
everything.
What
and
go
go-
during the day?
Yeah.
How about just not go? And
Yeah.
there
How
are
about
there are other ways. There are other ways to handle it. How about just not
Just
go?
not go.
Yeah, it's-
But I think, what do you think from this time forward will happen? You think he'll be careful?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure. I think he is for the next coming weeks, but I mean, from this week alone, it seems like he's a walking implosion.
I don't
And
think
he's in charge of the finance committee, and that's very interesting to me.
I don't think he will, because one thing you notice with individuals with these type of character flaws, whether it be former mayors, Mr. Zimmerman comes up, individuals who constantly find themselves in these things, is that eventually they're going to be who they are. And so it'll be interesting to see, maybe it will take counsel to kind of corner him.
Yeah.
And just have a firm conversation, because there is a sense of a new energy in Detroit. And my buddy right here to the right of me, he is essentially the embodiment of that, and people are not going to tolerate that. They're not going to accept that as the standard any longer. So we'll see.
And at the same time, I do wish him well. I hope he just makes the right decisions.
Of course, you
here on
want
out.
his success because Detroit will
yeah.
be successful.
Right.
But I just think that was just and then explaining. He shouldn't have even got on television and started explaining, oh, that bottle was there from whenever, and then my friend has okay, all right.
And I can tell you from a seasoned politician, I don't see why he he did a lot of stuff he's doing right now. He should know better,
Right.
as seasoned as he is.
I
I
agree.
do too.
I agree.
I challenge him to come on Table Talk, man. Anyway, I'm going to go on because we want to get to some of these real controversial issues. Amiri Baraka, Leroy Jones. He was Leroy Jones first. He wrote to play the Dutchman. He was the New Jersey poet laureate, prolific author. And I got an opportunity to meet him once. He passed away yesterday. So our sympathies to his family and all of that. He was a great man, and he did leave a legacy, and I was gifted enough to have his son, Roz Baraka, on my show. He was in from New Jersey with Jessica Care Moore, and Jessica Care Moore had him on a show, and so he was very, very interesting because he was the principal of a high school. Plus, he is a writer, and he's a prolific poet himself.
Sure.
Passed away at the age of 79.
Right, right. Now, and he had a 9/11 poem called "Somebody Blew Up America." I'm gonna get a hold of that one day. Now we're gonna go into a little entertainment. Dwayne Wade has been part of the controversy lately, and I saw something you posted on Facebook. Okay, someone tell the situation. Rodney, anyone tell the situation with Dwayne Wade?
Well, I'm gonna let one of the gentlemen go first, and then
Well,
I'm gonna.
I
I
will
have a
say
response
this,
that I really want to say.
I believe the situation was similar to both he and Gabrielle Union are, they're in a relationship. They ended up taking a break, as both of them, quote unquote, called it, taking a break from one another to, she has her acting deal going, and he has, of course, sports going. But he ended up having a kid, not out of wedlock, but out of that, well, yeah, I guess so. But out of that union there, if you will.
And it wasn't
Gabrielle's. It was
Union.
some.
And in fact,
Another young
the
lady.
mother of
Did you see
his
her?
new child is the mother of Damon Wayans
Jr. That's
Jr.'s
right.
2 children.
That's right.
And the thing about it, they said they were on a break and all of this stuff. At first I said, well, I'm not going to judge anybody. I'm not one to judge. Robert, you said.
But after that, he proposed to her, and she accepted his proposal, even though she knew about his indiscretion, which I wouldn't totally call it indiscretion if they took a break from one another.
That's what they're saying.
Well,
It could have been a commercial break.
It could have, but both of them made the statement that they were on break. So I take it as face value. They were on break, and he,
That's what Olivia
father
Pope
a kid
told them to
afterwards.
say. Scandal.
Right.
Anyway,
There you go.
what's your take, Rodney?
Let me just say this. Which camera am I looking at?
To
To the left.
yeah.
Let me just talk to Gabrielle, because I know you're watching right now. Gabrielle, Dwayne Wade, young fella, but you're about 10 years older than he is. You're closer to my age than you are to his age. Leave that 0 and come get with this hero. You're a beautiful sister. You are wonderful. You are absolutely beautiful. I know you're listening. Let's have a conversation. Call me.
After that, and I hope she's listening to that plea though. She's
that's not a plea, that's gay.
Fine woman there. But afterwards, another letter came out the other day, and she stated that hey, I think it was a little bit my fault. She took a little bit of blame there. Matter of fact, I think
Who took the blame?
Gabrielle Union.
So she had sex
made
with the guy.
No. She made a statement that she was so caught up in acting and all these other gigs she had going on that she wasn't around to totally satisfy Dwayne Wade. And hey, she came.
Oh God, I'm dying.
She made that acknowledgement there.
This is the thing that I think we all would do well to remember. There are details of this story we may never know. We probably will never know. And so from the outside looking
Let's
in,
look at what we know.
what we do know is that, and let's put it out there, a lot of women feel a certain type of way about this, whatever Gabrielle Union is accepting the proposal
I don't
from
see
Dwayne
why,
Wade.
yeah.
But I guarantee you this: if they were in that position
Absolutely.
and
They
Dwayne
would
Wade was
say
on
yes.
his knees proposing
Yeah.
to them, it may be a little bit different.
Okay, Rodney
So-
Whole
doesn't
lot of
have all
difference.
that baggage that Dwayne Wade had.
What baggage does
No,
Dwayne
No,
Wade have?
you're right, Ms. Perryman. So let me just say this: if Robert's right, Gabrielle, that you went away to do movies and Dwayne couldn't handle it, I can. I'll wait. I will wait for you. You come on back. Call me.
Well, and here's my other thing. They took a break. You take a break, and this girl, she apparently wrote an email. She put something on social media to Gabrielle Union, said, I slept on your side of the bed. I was this. I know what your nightstand looks like. All of this. But here's my thing. This is not the first time I've heard of women doing that, contacting the wife or the girlfriend saying, look, I've been in your house. I know what your house looks like. What is happening to women?
Man, I'm not sure what's going on with
The
that.
Atlanta
That's,
Housewives.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that a
That's what's
person
up.
sees an opportunity to get some spotlight, and they'll do whatever even if it makes them look bad, because we're not looking at her like, oh man, you know, she's accomplished something. We're looking at her negatively, but somehow she's trying to ride this wave of publicity, good or bad, and make a name for herself. I wouldn't be surprised to see her on the show pretty soon.
Well, yeah, and she probably will be, but I don't see why. Well, I guess, okay, now that you mentioned that, I can see exactly why, where she's coming from. Because she's going to get the money from the child support
Yeah.
now. She didn't have to go on, and write this letter, Gabrielle Union. I put your picture up and stuff like that on your nightstand. It was just crazy. She probably was going up on the Housewives.
And I think that they think
or
that
the,
those
the
housewives
basketball Housewives.
is real life.
Yeah.
Like they look at
Yeah,
those
yeah.
shows, a lot of people, I won't just say women, but probably mostly
I
women.
know some men who watch those
I know
shows.
there are some men that watch them, but I think that a lot of women watch those shows and they look at those women as successful. They look at those women as accomplished something. And so, I mean, the ratings show that it's popular.
It depends on the demographic you're looking at. But yeah, you're right. But I will say that I don't, I understand where Gabrielle Union's coming from.
You actually do.
I'm just saying,
I think
she
been
recognized what she
she's
was.
been on a lot of shows this week. She's been saving face, talking about how he proposed and all this stuff.
She recognized
All of
her
that
flaws, though, and
But
she's-
all of that was anticlimactic because wasn't she dating Dwayne Wade prior to his divorce?
It depends on, how do you define that relationship prior to the actual divorce?
But I'm not judging.
According to her, that didn't happen that way.
Okay.
It was on the downside of that relationship. I think he was still married
But they weren't
formally,
together.
but they weren't together.
They weren't together.
Yeah.
Well, sports fans, Dennis Rodman went over to North Korea with some other basketball players and they played a game. Or they played a game for Dennis Rodman's friend, the prime minister or whatever,
Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un. Did you see the tirade that he did on CNN?
I did, and I made a statement about that on social media too. He should let Charles Smith speak for him from now on instead of him open up his mouth.
Right.
He was a whole lot more articulate. But I believe that he was coming from some type of nightlife or night scene where they, were indulging in alcohol. I don't, I can look at that picture before they did the interview itself. And that's why he was speaking the way he was speaking. But although, Dennis Rodman has,
That's what.
both alcohol and drug issues.
Yeah.
Well, he's consistent. I mean, it reminds
Right.
me. It reminds me of a commercial that's running now, of how he bought a one-way ticket, airline ticket to what was it, China or no, Korea,
Yeah, North Korea.
North Korea, and the person selling the ticket was so happy, and she announced it. They're like, basically, we got rid of this guy.
Right.
And so I think we've come to expect these things, and we can almost time them from Dennis Rodman. He's a media junkie, and he definitely wants some attention. So almost we can expect he's going to do something crazy.
But it was something about that. He got a little emotional too. And that's why I was looking like, okay, is he, under influence of some type
Always gets
of...
emotional.
And
you know.
he's saying
Oh.
that's
he had the glasses on, and it seemed like he was a little
Basketball.
teary-eyed.
But he's always been that
He's
emotional
always
guy
emotional.
back from the Pistons,
He called
crying.
Kim Jong-un his friend and kept calling him that. Charles Smith had to, hey, you may want to lighten up. Matter of fact, he made a written statement after that. I was like, I don't think this is the way he really means friend.
Yeah.
But he think it was his
But I ain't
friend.
judging.
You know,
Right.
the guy just killed his.
Well, I
uncle the
think
other day.
that Dennis needs to be a little careful. I have no problem with him doing humanitarian work in North Korea or wherever, taking the game of basketball worldwide. But you want to be careful when you start making political statements while you're in that country about some political issues dealing with D.C. and
Absolutely.
Pyongyang. You want to be very careful, and he just needs to back up and really rethink all of that.
But I will say, I think that Dennis is a little smarter than what we give him credit for, in the sense that he has stayed relevant and he has made quite possibly more money from his antics off the court for himself and his family than he's made from his skill on the court. So, I mean, I would dare to say that there's a pinch of premeditation in most things that he does. I'm not saying it's the case with this, but if you look at what he's been able to accomplish, you know, you almost have to wonder, you know, is he the lunatic, or is he, you know, somewhat?
I'm waiting for you to come with your earring through your lip, your earrings all over your face. No, listen, Chris. Yeah, he knows how to stay in the spotlight. He has people who do like him. But I remember meeting Dennis Rodman a couple of days after he came here to play with the Pistons. And he was up right at Dunham's on Woodward, and he and Chuck Daly. And I took my son up there to see him, and we had a real nice conversation. He just seemed like a different guy. And he started turning. He says he started turning more after he left the Pistons, and Chuck Daly, you know, was like a father to him and so forth. I think he has made a blast out of himself.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think he's someone to be admired.
I don't think it's strategic either, and I don't think so. Not an issue like this. I don't think he went over there to. I think that they really went over there, although they say they did. You know, they're not diplomats. Anytime you go over to a foreign country the way they did, representing America, especially with a country that's not too favorable to America, you are going in a diplomatic type of state. If you like it or not, you're representing the United States, and their claim is that's not what we went over there for. But it's going to happen regardless.
Right.
You went over there to play basketball diplomacy, if you will. But I don't think he went over there to address an issue with
They have a prisoner.
the prisoner over there,
US
the American prisoner
right,
over there.
Citizen, right.
And once that topic came up,
Right.
that's when all hell broke loose.
Right.
And he went in his emotional state and started comparing himself to
You
Michael
know,
Jordan
that's
and
the
LeBron
media and
James.
stuff, because Chris Cuomo knew what
Oh,
he
yeah,
was
yeah,
doing.
yeah,
He
yeah,
knew
yeah.
what he
Yeah.
was doing. He knew he was probably opening up that can of worms. Now remember, the media can trick you, and the media will try to start things. Case in point. I think I talked about this once before. I was on Channel 7 being interviewed about Boys in the Hood. This was 100 years ago. And they had me in Detroit, and they had the man in Baldwin Hills, California, where they had some trouble at his theater. It was another black man. It was a black man. And the commentator was Bill Bonds. Bill Bonds kept trying to get me to argue with this man. And I refused to argue with a black man, except you all, on television in front of a national audience. I would just refuse to do it. And you have to really listen to a lot of the media.
Right.
Just like when they questioned George Cushionberry last night, maybe he shouldn't have said anything.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's best to drop back and punt and not say anything.
Exactly.
Collect yourself and everything. But
Yeah.
when you think sometimes, and Kwame used to do this, when you think you're bigger than the game, you think you could say anything.
You start to drink your own Kool-Aid. So to
And
speak.
yes, and that's what Dennis Rodman has drank his Kool-Aid to pour that
He
Kool-Aid.
poured it on his hair. as a
And
matter
they
of fact.
are, I mean, they keep filming them to the point that, I don't think Dennis Rodman told them that they were going over to North Korea on Kim Jong-un's birthday, number one.
Yeah, I heard
And which I don't think that whole team will ever be assembled again the way it was. Although they had one heck of a payday coming out of there.
Oh, they got paid?
Yeah, they got
Yeah,
paid.
of
for that.
course. Absolutely.
Yeah,
How much
yeah.
they
money.
get paid?
Yeah, it was. I'm pretty sure it's in the
Significant.
millions there for for showing up to that event. They played their national team, but he was also caught on camera singing "Happy Birthday"
Yes.
to Kim Jong Un.
And bowing to
that
him as
was
well.
yeah, and bowed to him. I was
Right.
like, oh my God, this is not happening right now. But yeah, he's this is one of the reasons why I don't think any of that stuff is strategic. I think he just lost his mind.
And I agree that, you know, there's more crazy than there is, you know, intelligence probably in Dennis Rodman. But at the same time, this guy has constantly found a way to create a payday for himself. And if we think that it wasn't about the money, this whole stunt somewhere down the line, we're crazy. And the players that went over there, they're not as crazy as Dennis Rodman. But and if you think that they didn't know that it was Kim's birthday coming up, we're being
I don't
naive
think
too.
so.
Oh, you
That's
know
such
what?
a big
I almost
thing. Why-
forgot.
I wouldn't know.
Not cut. Rodney.
Yes.
Mandela's Way.
Yes,
we're going
ma'am.
to go back to some civic event. Rodney has made a proposal that the city of Highland Park change part of Manchester to Mandela
Way.
Way.
Yes,
right?
ma'am. Actually, we did a resolution, and it passed, and so it is the law now. I would like to read the whereas, if I could, just for a moment. Whereas the city of Highland Park widely recognizes Henry Ford as a titan of the automobile industry, and whereas Nelson Mandela was the first black president of a post-apartheid South Africa, and whereas Nelson Mandela used his life pre- and post-imprisonment years to fight for freedom and equality for black South Africans and many oppressed people throughout the world, and whereas the city of Highland Park is in position to be the first municipality in Michigan to honor the legacy of President Nelson Mandela in such a way, now therefore be it resolved that the city of Highland Park hereby renames Manchester between Woodward Avenue and Hamilton Street to Mandela Way in honor of a global icon, President Nelson Mandela.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Highland Park, home of the polar bears, the
Absolutely.
Parkers. Mandela Way. When will this go into effect?
Once the weather breaks, we'll have the signs posted. We'll have a huge ceremony, and everyone's invited.
Wow, that's so exciting.
good.
That is so exciting. And that needs, have you put the press release out yet?
Not yet, but it's
Okay,
coming.
so
And
you
I'll be
heard
right
it
back here on your show.
Heard it here first. You heard it here first, everybody. Okay, we're going to go back because we talked so long on Dennis Rodman. That man just drives me crazy. But you know, why is money everything? I would love to see a story where someone refused to do something because of the money. I mean, money.
Oh, you had some
Yeah, go.
actresses that refused to play in certain roles.
Yeah,
because
that's
of-
true. But too many, I look at too many people.
Angela Bassett, matter of fact, turned down that was it Monsters Ball role in Halle Berry got.
Well, I didn't think that was a bad role. I didn't think anything was wrong with the role. I thought it was a great
She didn't want
role.
to be portrayed in that light, though. She has.
What light? It was just a hard luck woman.
Okay.
Well,
A woman with, oh, that's a whole different topic. Listen, we have
Yeah, that's-
7 dating trends that should stop immediately. And since I have you guys on, I want to kind of go through some of these. One is making a conscious effort to show how much less you care for the other person. It's like nobody wants to make the other person think I care for you more than, you know. So I have a poem about that. It's I've played it cool, be no fool so long. I think I overplayed my hand, the hand I wanted you to hold. Not knowing when to hold, fold, walk away or run to you and not from you was a flaw in my cool, be no fool demeanor. I couldn't read you or your hand. You telegraphed nothing, and laying my hand on the table might have blown my casual cool, be no fool demeanor. So I held my hand till my bid was set by too much cool. I was a damn fool. In other words, you see how that goes? You don't want to say anything. The other person doesn't want to say anything. Do you all find yourself playing that game?
Well, you know something. I can see where number one comes from. I've seen instances where, okay, you're dating someone and they say that, hey, I'm going out with a friend. It's a lunch date. Well, let's not call it a date. We're about to go have lunch with one of my friends. It just happened to be a male's friend. So we're opening that door. You think it subconsciously, okay, we're opening this door now. We can have, outside relationships with the opposite sex. Okay, cool. Go ahead. All right, now since you opened that door, maybe I could do the same thing now. And yeah, it's an immature way of approaching that subject instead of hitting it head on and talking that issue through. But
like I do like you a lot more maybe than I'm showing.
Well,
Rodney?
well, let me just say, I'm reminded of the scene in Love Jones. That's what I thought about while you were delivering your poem there. The scene where she was trying to decide whether or not she should go to New York, and then should she tell him why she was going to New York. And the game was if he acted or reacted in such a way that she would know that he cared about her and she wouldn't go. But if he played it cool, then that means he's not really that into you, so she would go anyway. And look at all the trauma that caused, that game. I know it's a movie, it was scripted, but that causes a lot of trauma.
That happens in life.
Yeah. I'm going to go home and watch it when I leave.
You know,
Gabrielle Union.
I think that, and that part of that is that so many people look to entertainment as a way to navigate relationships. I remember there was a scene. I think it was a movie, and if the guy ate the last piece of chicken, then he didn't love you or something like that. And I know people in real life who implement all this stuff that they see on TV, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that it more times than not. In those instances, it's women. But this right here, trying to play cool, I would think that it's more guys that do that because, there's this word out now, thirst. If you're overzealous about someone, if you're interested in them, then you're thirsty, and it opens you up to be exploited and embarrassed. And that's essentially what it's about. It's a defense mechanism. You don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want to be hurt. So you really don't want to be vulnerable and show how much you care. And so really what this is someone who's probably been hurt before and scared to get hurt again.
Well, but people do that. They play it cool. And I know somebody, well, I knew them. It took a lot of years for him to tell me, well, I was just jealous. Or I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want you to think that I liked you more than you liked me because people are scared.
Right.
Because it's a one step and one step. No one wants to get too far ahead of the other person because you have much more to lose at that. And then actually it feels like that person is in the driver's seat. So, but yeah.
I think that does happen. Do you all operate like that?
No, negative.
I'm going to go watch Love
We're
Jones.
all the way
Double check
we're
that.
more mature than this.
I'm the fool. I'm the fool. I'm not cool.
You're not cool.
Yeah.
You're not cool. You let people know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Just like my brother right
Definitely.
here did with Gabrielle Union. So,
Absolutely.
Okay.
You'll make it safe.
Well, we'll finish the rest of these next week. I want to know who do you think's going to win the football games this week and who's going to go to the Super Bowl?
I think San Fran's gonna probably lose to Carolina,
I like that.
and I think Indiana probably is gonna advance.
Indianapolis, okay.
Indianapolis over.
Over New England?
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
possible. It's possible.
Isn't it funny how Peyton Manning's coming back to his old team? I mean, not coming back, but going to be playing them, isn't he?
They
Not
play in
this
San
time.
Diego.
Oh,
They're
he
playing-
beat them last?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're playing San Diego.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay. I'm late.
I would like to see San Fran, do it with the quarterback that they have.
Kaepernick. Well, he's not going anywhere, but
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, while they talk about football, I want to remind you to go to our Facebook page, Table Talk with Brenda Perryman, and put on any discussion topics you'd like us to talk about, any controversial issues. We're trying to mix it up for you a little more, and we'll be out in the field a little more too. So we'll be going in just a second. I want to say, Rodney, thanks for jumping in the seat this week.
Thank you.
I got studio online. Cable Union?
Oh, that's for me. I'll take that. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm very sure. Hey, Gabby. Yeah. Let me get off the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, oh my God. Well, I guess Gabrielle, did somebody hear somebody talking? Okay, we will see you all next week. People are watching. You never know. R.J. Watkins just came in here with that call. You know, all we have to
That's
do is
funny.
put it out there. Remember, this is Table Talk with Brenda Perryman.
Well, that was for him. If that was for him, Janet, or who?
If that works, Idris.
What's the girl? Beyonce. What's the other one? Holly Berry.
Holly Berry. I mean, we got a
Holly
long
Berry.
list.
Holly Berry. 313-868-6612.
Absolutely.
Please.
Idris Elba.
I'm gonna come with
Not
mine.
Horace Chestnut. I'll see everybody next week.
I'll be back with mine on next week. So
Okay.
my personal plea.
We will see you next week on Table Talk with Brenda Perryman. Thank you all very, very much for joining us today.